Welcome everybody, welcome this Sunday. Today is February 26th in 2023. This is Stockholm calling, this is Sweden calling, this is Rainer calling from Rainier Books. Welcome to the channel. Today I give you my usual weekly mishmash, and I'm really happy that I'm posting a little more regular nowadays. Today I talk about the week of reading that I had, the week of reading that is in front of me. And of course, after the 24th of February 22 and 23, about 1 year war in Ukraine and some books from Ukraine. So let's do this. I finished one of the books that I'm currently reading, and this book that I finished this morning actually, then I started reading the rest of this one here. This is A Heart Full of Headstones by Ian Rankin, the Scottish author. As you might know if you look at other videos on my channel, last week I finished Michael Connelly's new novel Desert Star, which is a thriller novel from the US. Connelly is one of the most successful authors in the world right now, has sold 80 million copies of his books. Ian Rankin is much less successful than Connelly. He has only sold 30 million books, which is of course a real lot of books. 30 million has made him a millionaire, that is clear, and even Connelly of course. And this book, this takes us to Scotland, to the wonderful city of Edinburgh that I visited once in 2019. It is the 24th thriller around his character John Rebus, which is one of the most remarkable characters in crime fiction, as well as Harry Bosch's and Michael Connelly's work. John Rebus is getting older, like all of us, and Rebus is retired. He has retired a couple of years ago already, and now in the beginning of his new novel, A Heart Full of Headstones, we find him in court, but we don't know, and he's the accused, and we don't know why. And this is actually explained in the course of the novel, because then we got a flashback, like in so many other series or television shows. We have first a situation, then a flashback, which leads to the situation, and then the situation resolves in some way. So Rebus is in front of the court, we don't know why, and then it is explained. It's a novel where we see his usual staff, or some of his usual staff, his former colleagues still operating at the Edinburgh Police Department, Siobhan Clarke, and his one of his opponents within the police, Malcolm Fox, and of course also the nemesis of John Rebus, the gangster who ruled Edinburgh for so many years and was confronting Rebus, and he have fought a lot of fights, Big Ger Rafferty. You all see them here in a case of domestic abuse, which turns into murder, which turns into a police story within the police, corruption within the police. A very interesting novel. Again, Rankin really knows how to write a story, and he is doing this with his unforgettable character John Rebus. And the ending of the story is very unique because, well, no spoilers here, of course. Read it, it's a good entertainment. Ian Rankin's new novel, A Heart Full of Headstones. So that's all about Ian Rankin. I have started another book, Cocoon, by the Chinese author Zhang Yueran. I'm going to look it up on the internet. I haven't done it before the video, but I will do it, I promise, how to pronounce her name a little bit better. Cocoon is a very interesting novel. I have read only 20 pages of it today, but it's really, really good stuff. It's about two people in China born in the 1980s in this single child generation and their traumas of growing up single. Everybody's growing up as a single child in this generation, about the horrors of the past, and it's so good written, the 20 pages, that I really expect a great novel throughout. So this is really making me happy. And the other book that makes me happy is the book that I have still to listen to 5 hours, almost 5 hours, a little less. I've listened 13 hours now. It's the book by Patrick Radden Keefe. It's called Empire of Pain, The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty, which all Americans know who that Sackler Dynasty is, although they didn't know anything about it when they were active, when they was very active with their drug that sort of made hundreds of thousands of Americans addicts to painkillers, to Oxy, as it is called on the market. More about this when I have finished the book. It's an amazing story that Patrick Radden Keefe has put together, and he writes it in a prose that is almost like it's novelish, as we would say today in English. A novelish work of nonfiction that is so enjoyable and so stunning and so, how do you say, it makes you sad and angry, but you learn so much about the current crisis, the opiate crisis, which started many years ago, which still runs over the country. And because the Sackler dynasty, Sackler family has exported their painkillers to many countries in the world. More about this when I finished it, I promise. But now to the war in Ukraine. On Friday there was the first anniversary, which is a bad word, anniversary of the full-scale Russian invasion in Ukraine, which with so many people dying in Ukraine, children being kidnapped from Russian forces and brought to Russia, being adopted to Russian parents, to Russify them or to Russify them or whatever you call it in English. Women who get raped on a systematic basis, civilians who get killed, and rockets and missiles fired. And all behind that is the Russian president Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin and his fascist gang of perpetrators, of culprits, which is incredibly almost saying now, 1 year into the war, that they are fighting a war not only against the Nazis, the LGBT Nazis actually, in Ukraine, the special military operation, which still sometimes people call it, or people of the government call it in Russia, which is a full-scale war that has killed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And there are movements like in Germany. There was a demonstration yesterday in Berlin against the war, where people ask for a truce from the left party, from the former communist party of the GDR. We have politicians like Sarah Wagenknecht and the feminist Alice Schwarzer, who's more than 80 years old now, very important feminist in Germany. They are saying we should now stop, the West should now stop to deliver weapons to Ukraine, because we have to end this war, we have to go to the table and negotiate a peace deal, not recognizing that there's only one aggressor, not recognizing that this aggressor won't stop. If you stop delivering weapons, I'm a pacifist, but if we stop delivering weapons and guns and missiles and whatever to the Ukraine, Russia will march through and will be at the Polish border, will be at Moldova's border, and they will go into Transnistria, which is a part of Moldavia. There's so much fascist ideology. Watch Russian television.
Реально это стадия 8-летнего обострения геноцида украинской бандеровской нацистской власти против российского народа, против русскоговорящих, против тех, кто не принимает ЛГБТ, трансгендер, нацистские ценности.
I can tell you, if you can't watch Russian television because you don't understand Russian, I will put a link down below to an Australian television documentary which I saw actually yesterday, I think 30 minutes from Australia, from ABC Australia, about how Russian television is firing up, is putting oil into the fire all the time, and how they are talking about us as the LGBTQ Nazis of the West who want to destroy the Russian souls and who want to make Russian children gay and lesbian and transsexual. Believe that or believe it not, it's really there. And they say in the Russian television, state television, as I say, first program, to bomb Washington, to bomb Berlin, to kill the German foreign minister when she visited Kharkiv a couple of weeks ago. So this is really hard stuff, and I think that you can't negotiate with these people. Like Timothy Snyder, the wonderful Yale professor of history and an expert on Russian and Ukrainian history. I put a link to the interview with PBS down below that Timothy Snyder gave just a few days ago. He said in that interview at the end, when he was asked, how will that war end in Ukraine, or how can that war end? Timothy Snyder said, the only way this war can end is that Ukraine wins this war. That's the only way to end the war. Some books that I found that were published over the course of the last months. One is published by Penguin on August 4 in 2022. It sounds very interesting. I haven't read those 3 titles that I present now, but this is about books, this channel, so I always look for interesting literature. I'm definitely going to look this up to find this one here. This is called Writing from Ukraine, Fiction, Poetry and Essays since 1965, edited by Mark Andrichik and published by Penguin, as I said, in August last year. Under USSR rule, the subject matter and style of literary expression was strictly controlled and censored. But once Ukraine gained independence in 1991, its literary scene flourished, as the moving and delightful poems, essays and extracts collected in this volume show. There are 15 authors included in this book, both established and emerging, and in this anthology we see them grappling with history and the future with big questions and small moments. From essays about Chernobyl to poetry about Robbie Williams, from fiction discussing Jimi Hendrix live in Lviv to underground Ukrainian poetry of the Soviet era, Writing from Ukraine offers a unique window into a rich culture, a chance to experience a particularly Ukrainian sensibility and to celebrate Ukraine's nationhood, as told by its writers. I really want to read this. The second book that I want to mention here is called Diary of an Invasion by one of Ukraine's most prolific authors, by Andriy Kurkov, and it was published by Mountain Leopard Press on September 29 in 2022. The Journal of the Invasion, a collection of Andriy Kurkov's writings and broadcasts from Kiev, is a remarkable record of a brilliant writer at the forefront of the 21st century war. Andriy Kurkov has been a consistent satirical commentator on his adopted country of Ukraine. His most recent work, Grey Bees, a dark foreshadowing of the devastation in the eastern part of Ukraine, in which only 2 villagers remain in a village bombed to smithereens. The author has lived in Kiev, in the remote countryside of Ukraine, throughout the Russian invasion. He has also been able to fly to European capitals where he tried to raise money and has risen money for charities and to address crowded halls. Kurkov has been asked to write for every English newspaper, as also to be interviewed all over Europe. He has become an important voice for his people. And the third one is a children's book. Sometimes we can also read children's books, but to see the perspective of children. And this is called You Don't Know What War Is, The Diary of a Young Girl from Ukraine by Eva Skaliecka, published by Bloomsbury Children's Books on October 25 in 2022. This is the gripping and moving diary of young Ukrainian refugee Eva Skaliecka. It follows 12 days in Ukraine that changed 12-year-old Eva's life forever. She was woken in the early hours to the terrifying sounds of shelling. Russia had invaded Ukraine and her beloved Kharkiv home was no longer the safe haven it should have been. It was while she was forced to seek shelter in a damp, cramped basement that Eva decided to write down her story. And it's a story the world needs to hear. Eva captured the nation's heart when she was featured on Channel 4 News in UK with her as they fled Ukraine for Dublin. You don't know what war is. Eva records what is happening hour by hour as she seeks safety and travels from Kharkiv to Dublin. Each eye-opening diary entry is supplemented by personal photographs, excerpts of messages between Eva and her friends, and daily headlines from around the world, while 3 beautiful detailed maps by Kharkiv native Olga Stronda help the reader track Eva and her granny's journey. You Don't Know What War Is a powerful insight into what conflict is like, through the eyes of a child, and an essential read for adults and elder children alike. These are 3 books from and about the war in Ukraine, the war that hopefully is going to end very soon, with the only outcome it can end with a Ukrainian victory. I hope that you like this video. I hope that you like the channel. Please subscribe to the channel if you don't do it. You help me so much by doing this. On Wednesday morning, 2 a.m. Central European Time, I will release my next video, which is a prediction of the International Booker Longlist, the International Booker Longlist that comes on March 14. But on Wednesday, March 1, you can already take a glance at some of the books that might be on that long list and my prediction of that long list. Thank you very much for watching this video. Have a great, peaceful week. A peaceful week to all of us. Thank you and bye-bye.